Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 10, verse 64 onwards. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripa tamam vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Parmananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hari Om Tat Sat. Prabhu Priya Govindanand Mahabhagvat Prabhura Kirtaniya Adi Shri Govinda Datta. Prabhu Priya, the most dear to the Lord, Govindanand Mahabhagvat, great devotee, Prabhura of the Lord, Kirtaniya, performer of Kirtan, Adi, originally Shri Govindatta, Shri Govindatta. Govindanand and Govindatta, the 25th and 26th branches of the tree, were performers of Kirtan in the company of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Govindatta was the principal singer in Lord Chaitanya's Kirtan party. Govindatta appeared in the village of Sukhachar near Khadadaha. Verse 65, Shri Vijayadas Nama Prabhura Akhariya Prabhure Anek Punthi Diyache Likhiya. Shri Vijayadas, the 27th branch, another of the Lord's chief singers, gave the Lord many books written by hand. Formerly there were no printing presses. This is the purport. Printing presses or printed books. All books were handwritten. Precious books were kept in manuscript form in temples or other important places, and anyone who was interested in a book had to copy it by hand. Vijayadas was a professional writer who copied many manuscripts and gave them to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Verse 66, Ratna Bahu Bali Prabhu Thuila Tanra Nam Akinchana Prabhura Priya Krishna Das Nam. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave Vijayadas the name Ratna Bahu because he copied many manuscripts for him. The 28th branch was Krishna Das, who was very dear to the Lord. He was known as Akinchan Krishna Das. Purport: Akinchan means one who possessed nothing in this world. Verse 67, Khola Vecha Sridhara Prabhura Priyadas Yanha Sane Prabhu Kare Nitya Parihas. The 29th branch was Sridhar, the trader in banana tree bark. He was a very dear servant of the Lord. On many occasions the Lord played jokes on him. Purport: Sridhar was a poor Brahmin who made a living by selling banana tree bark to be made into cups. Probably he had a banana tree garden and collected the leaves, skin and pulp of the banana trees to sell daily in the market. He spent 50% of his income to worship the Ganges, and the balance he used for his subsistence. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started his civil disobedience movement in defiance of the Qazi, Sridhar danced in jubilation. The Lord used to drink water from his water jug. Sridhar presented a squash to Shachi Devi to cook before Lord Chaitanya took sannyas. Every year he went to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Jagannath Puri. According to Kavi Karnapura, Sridhar was a cowherd boy of Vrindavan whose name was Kusumasav. In his Ganga Gora Ganodesh Deepika 133 it is stated, Kola Vecha Taya Khyata Pandita Sridharo Dvija Asid Vraje Hasya Karo Yo Namna Kusuma Swaha. The cowherd boy known as Kusumasav in Krishna Lila later became Kholavecha Sridhar during Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Lila in Navadvip. Verse 68, Prabhu Yanra Nitya Laya Thoda Mocha Phala Yanra Futa Loha Patre Prabhu Pila Jala. Every day Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu jokingly snatched fruits, flowers and pulp from Sridhar and drank from his broken iron pot. Verse 69, Prabhura Ati Priya Das Bhagwan Pandita Yanra Dehe Krishna Purve Haila Adishthita The 30th branch was Bhagwan Pandit. He was an extremely dear servant of the Lord, but even previously he was a great devotee of Lord Krishna who always kept the Lord within his heart. Verse 70. Jagdish Pandit Ara Hiranya Mahashay Yare Kripa Kaila Balye Prabhu Dayamay. The 31st branch was Jagdish Pandit and the 32nd was Hiranya Mahashay, unto whom Lord Chaitanya in his childhood showed his causeless mercy. Purport: Jagdish Pandit was formerly a great dancer in Krishna Lila and was known as Chandrahas. Regarding Hiranya Pandit, it is said that once when Lord Nityananda, decorated with valuable jewels, was staying at his home all night long, a great thief attempted to plunder these jewels but was unsuccessful. Later he came to Nityananda Prabhu and surrendered unto him. Verse 71. E due ghare Prabhu ekadashi dine Vishnura Naivedya Magi Khaila Apne. In their two houses, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu begged food on the Ekadashi day and personally ate it. Purport: the injunction to fast on Ekadashi is especially meant for devotees. On Ekadashi, there are no restrictions regarding food that may be offered to the Lord. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took the food of Lord Vishnu in his ecstasy as Vishnu Tattva. Verse 72. Prabhura Paduya Dui Purushottam Sanjaya Vyakarane Dui Shishya Dui Mahashaya. The 33rd and 34th branches were the two students of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu named Purushottam and Sanjay, who were stalwart students in grammar. They were very great personalities. Purport: these two students were inhabitants of Navadvip and were the Lord's first companions in the Sankirtan movement. According to the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Purushottam Sanjay was the son of Mukunda Sanjay, but the author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita has clarified that Purushottam and Sanjay were two people, not one. Vanamali Panditas Shakha Vikhyat Jagate Sonar Mushal Hal Dekhila Prabhura Hate. Vanmali Pandit, the 35th branch of the tree, was very much celebrated in this world. He saw a golden club and plough in the hands of the Lord. Purport: Vanmali Pandit saw Lord Chaitanya in the ecstasy of Balaram. This is described vividly in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Untitled Chapter 9. Verse 74. Sri Chaitanyera Ati Priya Buddhi Manta Khan Ajanma Ajankari Tenho Sevak Pradhan. The 36th branch, Buddhimanta Khan, was extremely dear to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was always prepared to carry out the Lord's order and therefore he was considered to be a chief servant of the Lord. Purport: Sri Buddhimanta Khan was one of the inhabitants of Navadvip. He was very rich and it is he who arranged for the marriage of Lord Chaitanya with Vishnupriya, the daughter of Sanatan Mishra, who was the priest of the local zamindar. He personally defrayed all the expenditures for the marriage ceremony. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was attacked by Vayu Vyadhi, derangement of the air within the body, Buddhimanta Khan paid for all requisite medicines and treatment to cure the Lord. He was the Lord's constant companion in the Kirtan movement. He collected ornaments for the Lord when he played the part of the goddess of fortune in the house of Chandrasekhar Acharya. He also went to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was staying at Jagannath Puri. Verse 75. Garuda Pandit Laya Shrina Mangala Nam Bale Visha Yanre Na Karila Bala. Garuda Pandit, the 37th branch of the tree, always engaged in chanting the auspicious name of the Lord. Because of the strength of this chanting, even the effects of poison could not touch him. Purport: Garuda Pandit was once bitten by a poisonous snake, but the snake's poison could not affect him because of his chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Verse 76. Gopinathas Simha Eka Chaitanya Das Akrura Bali Prabhu Yanre Kaila Parihas. Gopinath Simha, the 38th branch of the tree, was a faithful servant of the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord jokingly addressed him as Akrur. Purport: actually he was Akrur, as stated in the 117th of the Gopinathas Deepika. Verse 77. Bhagwati Devananda Vakreshwara Kripate Bhagwatera Bhakti Artha Paila Prabhu Haite. Devanand Pandit was a professional reciter of Srimad Bhagavatam, but by the mercy of Vakreshwar Pandit and the grace of the Lord, he understood the devotional interpretation of the Bhagavatam. Purport: in the Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhyakhand chapter 21, it is stated that Devanand Pandit and Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya's father Visharad lived in the same village. Devanand Pandit was a professional reciter of Srimad Bhagavatam, but Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not like his interpretation of it. In the present town of Navadvip, which was formerly known as Kulia, Lord Chaitanya showed much mercy to him that he gave up the Mayavadi interpretation of Srimad Bhagavatam and learned how to explain Srimad Bhagavatam in terms of bhakti. Formerly, when Devanand was expounding the Mayavadi interpretation, Srivas Thakur was once present in his meeting, and when he began to cry, Devanand's students drove him away. Some days later, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed that way, and when he met Devanand, he chastised him severely because of his Mayavad interpretation of Srimad Bhagavatam. At that time, Devanand had little faith in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as an incarnation of Lord Krishna, but one night, some time later, Vakreshwar Pandit was a guest in his house, and when he explained the science of Krishna, Devanand was convinced about the identity of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thus, he was induced to explain Srimad Bhagavatam according to the Vaishnava understanding. In the Gaura Ganutesha Deepika 106, it is described that he was formerly Bhaguri Muni, the Sabha Pandit who recited Vedic literatures in the house of Nanda Maharaj. Verses 78 and 79. Kandavasi Mukunda Das Shri Raghunandana Narhari Das Chiranjeeva Sulochana Ay Sabha Mahashakha Chaitanya Kripadham Prema Phala Phula Kare Yahan Tahan Down. Sri Khandavasi Mukunda and his son Raghunandana were the 39th branch of the tree. Narhari was the 40th, Chiranjeev the 41st, and Sulochan the 42nd. They were all big branches of the all-merciful tree of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They distributed the fruits and flowers of love of Godhead anywhere and everywhere. Purport: Shri Mukund Das was the son of Narayan Das and eldest brother of Narhari Sarkar. His second brother's name was Madhav Das, and his son was named Raghunandan Das. Descendants of Raghunandan Das still live 4 miles west of Katwa in the village named Sri Khanda, where Raghunandan Das used to live. Raghunandan had one son named Kanai, who had 2 sons, Madan Rai, who was a disciple of Narhari Thakur, and Vamshivadan. It is estimated that at least 400 men descended in this dynasty. All their names are recorded in the village of Sri Khanda. In the Gaura Ganutesha Deepika 175, it is stated that Gopi, whose name was Vrinda Devi, became Mukunda Das, lived in Sri Khanda village, and was very dear to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His wonderful devotion and love for Krishna are described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila chapter 15. It is stated that in that Bhakti Ratnakar 8th wave that Raghunandan used to serve a deity of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Narhari Das Sarkar was a very famous devotee. Lochan Das Thakur, the celebrated author of Sri Chaitanya Mangal, was his disciple. In the Chaitanya Mangal, it is stated that Sri Gadadhar Das and Narhari Sarkar were extremely dear to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but there is no specific statement regarding the inhabitants of the village of Sri Khanda. Chiranjeev and Sulochan were both residents of Sri Khanda, where their descendants are still living. Of Chiranjeev's 2 sons, the elder Ramchandra Kaviraj was a disciple of Srinivasacharya and an intimate associate of Narottam Das Thakur. The younger son was Gopinathas Kaviraj, the famous Vaishnav poet. Chiranjeev's wife was Sunanda, and his father-in-law was Damodar Sen Kaviraj. Chiranjeev previously lived on the bank of Ganges River in the village of Kumara The Gora Ganodesha Deepika 207 states that he was formerly Chandrika in Vrindavan. Verse 80, Kulina Gram Vasi Satyaraja Ramananda Yadunath Purushottama Shankar Vidyananda. Satyaraj, Ramananda, Yadunath, Purushottam, Shankar and Vidyanand all belong to this 20th branch. They were the inhabitants of the village known as Kulinagram. Verse 81. Vaninath Vasuadi Yatagrami Jana Sabai Chaitanya Britya Chaitanya Pranadhana. All the inhabitants of Kulingram village headed by Vaninath Vasu were servants of Lord Chaitanya, who was their only life and wealth. Prabhu kahe Kulina Gramera ye haya kukura se mora priya anya jana rahu dura. The Lord said, what to speak of others, even a dog in the village of Kulingram is my dear friend. Verse 83. Kulina Gramira Bhagya Kahane Nayaya Shukara Charaya Doma Seha Krishna Gai. No one can describe the fortunate position of the Kulingram. It is so sublime that even sweepers who tend their hogs, they also chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Verse 84. On the western side were the 43rd, 44th and 45th branches, Sri Sanatan, Sri Rupa and Anupama. They were the best of all. Purport: Sri Anupama was the father of Srila Jeev Goswami and younger brother of Sanatan Goswami and Rup Goswami. His former name was Vallabh, but after Lord Chaitanya met him, he gave him the name Anupam. Because of working in the Muslim government, these three brothers were given the title Malik. Our personal family is connected with the Maliks of Mahatma Gandhi Road in Calcutta, and we often used to visit their Radha Govind temple. They belong to the same family as we do. This is Srila Prabhupada saying, our family Gotra original genealogical line is the Gautam Gotra, or the line of disciples of Gautam Muni, and our surname is De. But due to accepting the posts of zamindars in the Muslim family, they received the title Malik. Similarly, Rupa, Sanatan and Vallabh were also given the title Malik. Malik means Lord, just as the English government gives rich and respectable persons the title Lord. So the Muslims give the title Malik to rich, respectable families that have intimate connections with the government. Thus the title Malik is found not only among the Muslims but also among the Hindu aristocracy. This title is not restricted to a particular family but is given to different families and castes. The qualifications for receiving it are wealth and respectability. Sanatan Goswami and Rupa Goswami belong to the Bharadwaj Gotra, which indicates that they belonged either to the family or disciplic succession of Bharadwaj Muni. As members of the Krishna conscious movement, we belong to the family or disciplic succession of Saraswati Goswami, and thus we are known as Saraswatas. Obeisances are therefore offered to the spiritual master as Saraswat Dev or member of the Saraswat family. Namaste Saraswati Deve, whose mission is to broadcast the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Gauravani Pracharine and to fight with impersonalists and voidists. Nirvishesh Shunyavati Paschat Deshitarine. This was also the occupational duty of Sanatan Goswami, Rupa Goswami and Anupam Goswami. The genealogical table of Sanatan Goswami, Rupa Goswami and Vallabh Goswami can be traced back to the 12th century. Shakabda, when a gentleman of the name Sarvajana appeared in a very rich and opulent Brahmin family in the province of Karnat. He had two sons named Aniruddhera Rupeshwara and Harihar, who were both bereft of their kingdoms and thus obliged to reside in the highlands. The son of Rupeshwar, who was named Padmanabh, moved to a place in Bengal known as Naihati on the bank of the Ganges. There he had 5 sons, of whom the youngest Mukunda had a very well-behaved son named Kumaradeva, who was the father of Rupa, Sanatan and Vallabh. Kumaradev lived in Fatehabad, an area bordering Bakla Chandradweepa in East Bengal, now Bangladesh. The present-day village of Prembagh, which lies near Ramshara in the Jessore district of Bangladesh. It is said by many to be the site of Kumaradeva's house. Of his many sons, 3 took to the path of Vaishnavism. Later, Sri Vallabh and his elder brother Sri Rupa and Sanatan came from the Chandradweep to the village in the Malda district of Bengal known as Ramakeli. It is in this village that Srila Jeev Goswami took birth, accepting Vallabh as his father. Because of engaging in the service of Muslim government, the 3 brothers received the title Malik. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the village of Ramakeli, he met Vallabh there. Later, Sri Rupa Goswami, after meeting Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, resigned from the government service, and when he went to Vrindavan to meet Lord Chaitanya, Vallabh accompanied him. The meeting of Rupa Goswami and Vallabh with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Allahabad is described in the Madhya Lila, chapter 19. Actually, it is to be understood from the statement of Sanatan Goswami that Sri Rupa Goswami and Vallabh went to Vrindavan under the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. First, they went to Mathura, where they met a gentleman named Subuddhi Rai, who maintained himself by selling dry fuel wood. He was very pleased to meet Sri Rupa Goswami and Anupam, and he showed them the 12 forests of Vrindavan. Thus they lived in Vrindavan for 1 month and then again went to search for Sanatan Goswami. Following the course of the Ganges, they reached Allahabad or Prayag, but because Sanatan Goswami had come there by a different road, they did not meet him there. And when Sanatan Goswami came to Mathura, he was informed of the visit of Rupa Goswami and Anupam by Subuddhi Rai. When Rupa Goswami and Anupama met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Banaras, they heard about Sanatan Goswami's travels from him, and thus they returned to Bengal, adjusted their affairs with the state, and on the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, went to see the Lord at Jagannath Puri. In the year 1436, Shakabda, AD 1514, the youngest brother Anupam died and went back home, back to Godhead. He went to the abode in the spiritual sky where Sri Ramchandra is situated. At Jagannath Puri, Sri Rupa Goswami informed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu of this incident. Vallabh was a great devotee of Sri Ramchandra, therefore he could not seriously consider the worship of Radha Govind according to the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yet he directly accepted Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Ramchandra. In the Bhakti Ratnakar, there is the following statement: Vallabh was given the name Anupam by Sri Gaura Sundar, but he was always absorbed in the devotional service of Lord Ramchandra. He did not know anyone but Sri Ramchandra, but he knew that Sri Chaitanya Goswami was the same Lord Ramchandra. In the Gaura Ganodesha Deepika 180, Srila Rupa Goswami is described to be the gopi named Sri Rup Manjari. In the Bhakti Ratnakar, there is a list of the books Sri Rupa Goswami compiled. Of all his books, the following 16 are very popular among Vaishnavas: Hamsaduta, Uddhav Sandesh, Krishna Janmatithi Vidhi, Radha Krishna Ganodesha Deepika, Brihat and Laghu, Stvamala, Vidgadha Madhav, Lalita Madhav, Dana Keli, Kaumudi, Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. This is the most celebrated book by Sri Rupa Goswami. Ujjwal Nilamani, Akhyata Chandrika, Mathura Mahima, Padyavali, Natak Chandrika, Laghu Bhagavatamrita. Sri Rupa Goswami gave up All his family connections joined the renounced order of life and divided his money, giving 50% to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas and 25% to his kutumba or the family members, and keeping 25% for personal emergencies. He met Haridas Thakur in Jagannath Puri, where he also met Lord Chaitanya and his other associates. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to praise the handwriting of Rupa Goswami. Sri Rupa Goswami could compose verses according to the desires of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and by his direction he wrote 2 books named Lalita Madhav and Vidgad Madhav. Lord Chaitanya desired the 2 brothers Sanatan Goswami and Rup Goswami to publish many books in the support of the Vaishnava religion. When Sanatan Goswami met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord advised him also to go to Vrindavan. Sri Sanatan Goswami is described in the Gaura Ganodesha Deepika 181. He was formerly known as Rati Manjari or sometimes Lavanga Manjari in the Bhakti Ratnakar. It is stated that his spiritual master Vidya Vachaspati sometimes stayed in the village of Ramakeli, and Sanatan Goswami studied all the Vedic literatures from him. He was so devoted to his spiritual master that this cannot be described. According to the Vedic system, if someone sees a Muslim, he must perform rituals to atone for the meeting. Sanatan Goswami was always associated with the Muslim kings, not giving much attention to the Vedic injunctions. He used to visit the houses of Muslim kings, and thus he considered himself to have been converted into a Muslim. He was therefore always very humble and meek. When Sanatan Goswami presented himself before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, "I am always in association with the lower class people and my behavior is also abominable." He actually belonged to a respectable Brahman family, but because he considered his behavior to be abominable, he did not try to place himself among the Brahmanas but always remained among the people of the lower castes. He wrote the Hari Bhakti Vilas and Vaishnav Toshani, which is commentary on the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the year 1476. Shakabda, which is AD 1554, he completed the Brihad Vaishnav Toshani commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. In the year 1504 Shakabda, which is AD 1582, Srila Jiva Goswami published an edited version of the Brihad Vaishnav Toshani named Laghu Toshani. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught his principles through 4 chief followers. Among them, Ramananda Rai is exceptional for through him the Lord taught how a devotee can completely vanquish the power of Cupid. By Cupid's power, as soon as one sees a beautiful woman, he is conquered by her beauty. Sri Ramananda Rai, however, vanquished Cupid's pride. Indeed, while rehearsing the Jagannath Vallabh Natak, he personally directed extremely beautiful young girls in dancing, but he was never affected by their youthful beauty. Sri Ramananda Rai personally bathed these girls, touching them and washing them with his own hands, yet he remained calm and passionless as a great devotee should be. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu certified this was only possible for Ramananda Rai. Similarly, Damodar Pandit was notable for his objectivity as a critic. He did not even sway Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from his criticism. This also cannot be imitated by anyone else. Haridas Thakur is exceptional for his forbearance because although he was beaten with canes in 22 marketplaces, he was nevertheless tolerant. Similarly, Sri Sanatan Goswami, although he belonged to a most respectable Brahman family, was exceptional for his humility and meekness. In the Madhya Lila chapter 19, the device adopted by Sanatan Goswami to get free from government service is described. He served a notice of sickness to the Nawab, the Muslim governor, but actually was studying Srimad Bhagavatam with Brahmins at home. The Nawab received information of this through a royal physician and immediately went to see Sanatan Goswami to discover his intentions. The Nawab requested Sanatan to accompany him to the expedition to Odisha, but when Sanatan Goswami refused, the Nawab ordered that he must be imprisoned. When Rupa Goswami left home, he wrote a note for Sanatan Goswami informing him of some money that he had entrusted to a local grocer. Sanatan Goswami took the advantage of this money to bribe the jailkeeper and get free from the detention. Then he left for the Banaras to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, bringing with him only one servant whose name was Ishan. On the way, they stopped at a Sarai hotel, and when the hotel keeper found out that Ishan had some gold coins, he planned to kill both Sanatan and Ishan to take away the coins. Later, Sanatan saw that although the hotel keeper did not know him, he was being especially attentive to their comfort. Therefore, he concluded that Ishan was secretly carrying some money, and the hotel keeper was aware of this and therefore planned to kill them for it. Upon being questioned by Sanatan Goswami, Ishan admitted that he had some money on him, and immediately Sanatan Goswami took the money and gave it to the hotel keeper, requesting him to help them get through the jungle. Thus, with the help of hotel keeper, who was also the chief of the thieves of that territory, Sanatan Goswami crossed over the Hazipur mountains, which are presently known as Hazari Bags. He then met his brother-in-law Shrikant, who requested that he stay with him. Sanatan Goswami refused, but before they parted, Shrikant gave him a valuable blanket. Somehow or other, Sanatan Goswami reached Varanasi and met Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at the house of Chandrasekhar. By the order of the Lord, Sanatan Goswami was cleanly shaved, dress changed to that of mendicant or Babaji. He put in old garments of Tapar Mishras and took prasadam at the house of Maharashtrian Brahman. Then in discourses with Lord Chaitanya, the Lord himself explained everything about devotional service to Sanatan Goswami. He advised Sanatan Goswami to write books on devotional service, including a book of directions for Vaishnava activities, and to excavate the lost places of pilgrimage in Vrindavan. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him his blessings to do all this work, and also explained to Sanatan Goswami the import of the Atmaram verse from 61 different angles of vision. Sanatan Goswami went to Vrindavan by the main road, and when he reached Mathura, he met Subudhi Rai. Then he returned to Jagannath Puri through Jharkhand or Jharkhand forest, the Madhya Pradesh jungle at Jagannath Puri. He decided to give up his body by falling down beneath the wheel of a Jagannath Rath, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saved him. Then Sanatan Goswami met Haridas Thakur and heard the disappearance of Anupama. Sanatan Goswami later described the glories of Haridas Thakur. Sanatan observed the etiquette of Jagannath's temple by going along the beach to visit Lord Chaitanya. Although he was very hot due to sun, he requested Jagannath Pandit to give him the permission to return to Vrindavan. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu praised the character of Sanatan Goswami and he embraced Sanatan, accepting his body as spiritual. Sanatan Goswami was ordered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to live at Jagannath Puri for 1 year. When he returned to Vrindavan after that time, he again met Rupa Goswami, and then both brothers remained in Vrindavan to execute the orders of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The place where Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami formerly lived has now become a place of pilgrimage. It is known as Gupta Vrindavan or Hidden Vrindavan and is situated about 8 miles south of English Bazaar. There are the following places are still visited: the temple of Sri Madan Mohan Deity, the Keli Kadam tree under which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Sanatan Goswami at night, and Rupa Sagar, a large pond excavated by Rupa Goswami. A society named Ram Keli Samskar Samiti was established in 1924 to repair the temple and remove the pond. So we'll continue our reading from here onwards. Verse 84 had a very long purport. Thanks for joining. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.